You know, that wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. That performances was just lacked that intensity.
Ooh, didn't even mention Roy Keane. Speaking of lacking intensity, yeah, I presume you've seen the footage of Keane and Man United fans outside the game after yesterday. Have you seen that?
No, I saw quite a bit of his analysis with Mika Richards and Graham Souness and Gary Neville after the game. I didn't see that.
I didn't see that much. I saw a little bit of it where he was just doing his, I'm a broken man here. I'm sorry for the players. They're not Man United players. And then by that stage I was flicking back. But stuff has gone viral on Twitter of Man United fans giving it to Keane. And there's just a moment in it where Keane's like, I've been here signing autographs for ages. Oh, you've had a few drinks, have you? You've had two or three pints. And then he takes 2 steps forward in the altercation, and there's a big intake of breath where it was like, where's this going?
What a hero.
I mean, you shouldn't really be getting into it with the drunk fans.
No, you shouldn't.
Nature and life, a lifetime of being involved around drunk fans tells you what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
You're going to get filmed. They're going to brag to their mates that they wound up Roy Keane, and you're going to end up looking pretty bad. And he's on the front of the papers, but
he's never, like, Roy, has he ever been more relevant at 50? Like, you know, I know Paul McCartney's trying to stay relevant at 80 odd or whatever, but Keano, just like everything he says is...
Much and all as I love Roy Keane, I think probably Paul McCartney's had a bigger impact on pop culture.
He has, although I think Keano's had a bigger impact on my life, to be fair. But you know, he's still. It's like even yesterday the headlines were ex-United captains, you know, ex-United greats, whatever, Round and Solskjaer. Was Saturday the beginning of the end, or the further down the road of the end?
I think that was they were finally abandoning ship, right? There was no redeeming feature. Let's take up our performance record. Man United are in the red. So this is our first one. Manchester United, we've got Villa, we've got Wales, we've got Irish Rugby and Irish Football. This is actually a weekly competition. If you want to win a Gillette starter pack, then get involved. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel. Tell us who you think should be in which colour, and we'll pick an entry between now and 10 a.m. this morning. So a reminder that OTB AM is with Gillette, proud sponsors of Movember. Gentlemen, let's mow. So Manchester United, right?
Yeah.
Why are they in the red?
Why are they in the red? They were in the red, I think, the last time I was on this show as well. But this was this is the nadir, I think, really. And it's still interesting just to look at, if you're the owners of Manchester United, what do you do with Solskjaer? Because 17 points, they're 6 points off second at the moment. So in terms of like their European ambitions, it's not irretrievable. And some of their, you know, Liverpool are showing a few kinks, so, you know, Man United will still hope that they could finish in the top 4 or whatever, but they won't under Solskjaer, clearly, you know, because he has brought in Ronaldo, which itself, like, we debated this a lot at the time. It was a big gamble in terms of the actual football side of the game. If you want to look at every other side of Manchester United, it was probably a great thing to do. But Ronaldo coming in, and Ronaldo personally himself has done extremely well since he came in, but it's just the problems that creates elsewhere. And also what the other strikers have done since Ronaldo has come in, they haven't lifted their game. And Man United can't play against a team like Man City. And what I thought was hilarious was apparently Solskjaer said we're going to start on the front foot against Man City. Like, that's so far removed from reality. Manchester United are completely incapable of playing on the front foot against Manchester City, particularly when you have somebody like Ronaldo on the team. When Ronaldo is on the team, you can't do that much off the ball.
I disagree with that. I'll tell you that.
Disagree with what then?
Well, I think that if Pep Guardiola had
a team of Ronaldo,
yeah, or if Klopp had somehow inherited Cristiano Ronaldo, he'd be able to make him work. And that's the thing, is that, like, a good manager would actually be able to fix this scenario.
But he wouldn't have signed him.
To go back to, so I said inherited, but Guardiola was trying to sign him. We know that he was. We know that for a fact. We absolutely, that is 100%. They were trying to sign him, and that ultimately was one of the reasons why Man United jumped in and signed him. If you go back to the time, the narrative was, he's definitely going to make the team better. He's Ronaldo. He's one of the best footballers in the world. Of course he will. We took that as one of those truisms, and that has turned out not to be necessarily true. He has done a lot of very amazing things, but is the team actually better than they were last year? In games like this, for example, are they better? No, because there's no identity. And it goes back to the issue with Solskjaer not being a particularly good manager. I think that's why
it does.
They're trapped in a purgatory at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, and there are issues defensively as well that are probably part of a more general malaise, like Maguire's performances this season and so forth. I mean, if you looked at the ratings yesterday on Saturday, De Gea got 9 and everyone else got 4 or 5.
And
everyone.
De Gea still threw one in.
And De Gea still threw one in.
I'm not sure I'd be giving him a 9 after throwing the one in.
I'd give him an 8, but he had an outstanding first half apart from that. But Man United, in fairness, last year with the pace they had on the break, they were well able to, match up against teams like Man City and soak up pressure but play on the break, and they were a real threat on the break. They're not really a threat on the break anymore, and they don't have any identity where they're going, and I don't see them finishing in the top 4 under Ronaldo or under Solskjaer. I can't see it happening at all. They have the Pogba issue as well. When Pogba comes back from suspension, what do they do with him? He disgraced himself against Liverpool. In some respects this was more humiliating than the Liverpool game because it was embarrassing. Like they were being toyed with throughout.
I can't accept that, right? Because at the end, when the history books are written and when you're going through the history books, there'll be a 5-0 beside the Liverpool game and there'll be a 2-0 beside this, and we won't, in 3 years' time. Okay, so next season, everybody will remember that was the game where it could really have been 5 or 6 if City had turned the screw. City didn't bother turning the screw, but then City can't turn the screw in games like that. They tend not to beat teams like that. But I actually still think the Liverpool one, for all sorts of historic reasons, is more humiliating. There's a beautiful historic importance around the 5-0s in the Clásicos. Like it's a big kind of, we stamped you down and you're dead. And
look at Liverpool's performances since.
Look.
Like if you look at form lines in horse racing, it doesn't even really stack up. Like, Liverpool do have vulnerabilities.
Villa's manager was sacked.
Villa's manager was sacked.
Last win was against United at Old Trafford.
The only way win they've had all season. Do you know what we spoke about this Saturday as well? These games should not be played. Manchester United, Man City should not be played that early on a Saturday.
I heard you guys.
There was no atmosphere.
The atmosphere was great. There was non-stop ollies at the wheel from the City fans. You could hear it resonating around the stadium. I think there's no atmosphere because Man United are crap. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think, and I think the fans went into that game probably expecting little more than what they got. But the pantomime continues. Like they've literally every time I'm on the show, we're talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for about 3 years now. It's like just get him out of the way and let me get on with my life.
So the point you made about finishing the top 4, that's the thing that we've always said is the main trigger for the owners to get rid of him.
I don't think they particularly care about winning things. I really don't. I think the balance sheet is all good. Like,
well, yeah, they care about qualifying for the Champions League. That's the be all and end all. That's the victory, or defeat. And I think in a weird way, Arsenal's scratchy 1-0 win against Watford yesterday might be the most important result of the weekend from Man United's perspective, and perhaps West Ham beating Liverpool, because it suggests that instead of there just being a baked-in top 4 that we knew was going to be Chelsea, City, Liverpool, and they would have assumed Manchester United, all of a sudden it looks realistic that the run Mikel Arteta's team are on, and particularly the run that David Moyes' team are on, means that the top 6 is a top 6 and not a top 4.
And Spurs as well. Like Spurs are, like, under Conte could definitely improve. The good thing for Spurs was that they actually won 5 of their 10 games before he came in. So their points tally 15 is probably flattering in terms of the season that they've had. But if you win games rather than draw games with the 3 points for a win, it just helps you up the table. So they're not that far off. They're only 6 points off Liverpool. And Conte will hope that they'd improve. I think Everton will have a good season. Manchester United at the moment, I'm only speculating on XG, but in terms of their performances, there's no way that they're going to finish in the top 4. They've been, since Ronaldo has come in, basically, they've been really poor. And I'm not blaming Ronaldo on this, but just the whole shape of their team is wrong. And there's something not right there. They've been really, really poor in games and giving away goals very cheaply. And they didn't lay a glove on City, really. It was really pathetic and embarrassing. But I don't know if the players, either physically or mentally, were able to do any more at the state that they're in at the moment. They had the one chance where Ronaldo's shot was saved. The rebound they could have scored. That was it. And every single Manchester City player, outfield player, had more touches than the player who touched the ball most for Manchester United, which is really depressing, particularly in a game where you're 1-0 down for most of it, when you should have the ball because you're pressing to get an equaliser.
Yeah, they were
four touches in the opposition box. 4 touches in the opposition box.
Yeah. Is that the lowest since records began or something? Was that the...
When did records begin, I wonder? Long before the days of XG and so on. But
02, sometime around then, I think.
I don't think Solskjaer can really come back from this, because he's had, like, the rally against Spurs was fake because Spurs were a joke. So basically their performances have been rubbish for some time now, and I don't see his way out.
The Spurs thing is going to be one of those most interesting sliding doors moments in world football for the next 18 months, where whoever is the next manager won't be Antonio Conte, as a result of the fact that Spurs acted more quickly after Manchester United beat them. So the door slid. Spurs went behind door number one, Antonio Conte. Man United went, yeah, you're going to keep Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for another week or two, or maybe until Christmas, or maybe until the end of the season. Oh no, we didn't qualify for the Champions League. Who's going to manage us now?
There are managers out there. It's not like, I don't know enough about world football to say, but there clearly are very good, promising young coaches. Like, there are definitely, and I mean this for a fact, there are managers in the League of Ireland that would do a better job than Solskjaer is doing. 100%. Including probably Damien Duff.
Well, I mean, Duffer doesn't have the experience. You can't.
I'd still suspect Solskjaer's doing a rank bad job at the moment.
It's not. I mean,
probably wouldn't be. Would he be able to deal with Pogba and the Eagles? Actually, Duffer just get rid of a load of them. Pogba be gone because he's wielded the proverbial axe at Shells.
Well,
anyone he doesn't like would be just gone.
They should have got rid of Pogba last summer after the World Cup when
his currency
when they had the opportunity to get anything for him, get 50 cents on the dollar, whatever it was, because he hasn't been an impactful player more often than not, and you are spending a lot of money and he sets the bar for what everybody expects in terms of wages. There's loads of different reasons for that. They should probably get rid of De Gea next summer as well, because he's massively overpaid for as a goalkeeper go. And I know the money is not supposed to be important, but ultimately it creates an architecture and an ecosystem in the dressing room where people expect
people definitely underestimate that, Jerry. It's not, and people say, like, why would you care if you're on another 100 grand a month or 100 grand a week when you've so much money? But it's all about hierarchy, and it's like, I've spoken to ex-players about this. There's real resentment there if there's a player who you think is either on your level or inferior to you and is on exponentially more money than you. It creates disharmony, and it's a big problem for any club. Like, say next season, if the likes of in the League of Ireland, if Derry City are getting a lot more money, how do you bring in players? But you have players already on contractual situations. You can't bring in players and pay them double because it creates a complete shit show.
Well, you can, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and it's not. You have to have. If say, like, if Pogba were like absolutely breaking records and doing everything week in, week out, then you can say that's fine.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Yeah, Ronaldo's worth the money, Pogba's worth the money, but he's not. And his tackle against Liverpool and Ronaldo's tackle against Liverpool, it was symptomatic of a dressing room that isn't functioning.
Okay, so that's Manchester United in the red. If you are a Man United fan, we'd love to hear from you. You can leave a comment in the YouTube stream and we'll get to that, or of course you can get us on 0879 180 180. Villa in the red as well. So it's mad. 5 weeks ago, Villa won 1-0 at Manchester United at Old Trafford. They rode out one of those late comeback storms, and Dean Smith's gone at the weekend. As a Villa fan, I definitely felt a lot of sympathy for the Man United fans who want Solskjaer to succeed. That's the other side of this, is that, like, you really desperately want somebody from your club who knows it, who wants it to work, because it does actually mean more. I can legitimately say that being a Villa fan with Dean Smith as the manager meant more to me than when David O'Leary was the manager, or Houllier, or any of that other group who came really since John Gregory and Brian Little. Like,
Brian Little's a top man, isn't he?
Steve Bruce. Like, you fall out of loving the club when it's just a randomer managing it. And, like, they're all professional managers and they're all doing what they think is the best for them, and therefore also for the club, you would argue. But it does mean more when somebody who is a fan of the club is in charge and who feels ultimately it didn't work out because they've gone into a horrific slump. He seems to have lost confidence. The players seem to have lost confidence, and the players who were playing well and were achieving last season are no longer performing for him. And
what's his record since Grealish left, for example?
They laid big eggs in the transfer window. His record without Grealish is pretty bad over the last, because Grealish was injured for a while and then came back. I think it was something like 16 defeats in 30 games. Something like, it's close enough to relegation for him. And so they get sucked into the relegation mire, and now they're going to say, let's give it to Stevie G. I'm like, I'm not really sure about that either.
Stevie G, take it.
I'd be surprised if. Why would you not take the Newcastle gig if you were going to take one of these gigs? We didn't even mention Eddie Howe in the stands at the game at the weekend.
The Gerrard situation will be interesting because obviously we know he wants the Liverpool job, but his next job is going to be interesting as well. I'd say there's still an asterisk over what he's achieving in English football at Rangers because like it's just not comparable. And the Villa job probably would be a tough job to go into. It's a competitive Premier League, and
the other ones are Ralph Hasenhüttl. He's been linked with it, and there was somebody else. Oh, the Denmark manager. The Denmark manager sounds pretty interesting because he is the one who Denmark had qualified for the Euros, and they took the manager out because he was playing too boring football, and they put in the new manager. And then obviously what happened at the Euros happened, but like by all accounts he plays very good progressive football. Now, can you stick one of those managers in who doesn't know the Premier League in the middle of the season? Premier League players are notoriously, who are you?
Yeah,
you've never played here before. I'm like, oh, come on, just do what he tells you and you might get better. But it seems
they
to
have
matter.
the players to kind of, like, you look at the teams around them, like Southampton, Leeds, Leicester. It's not like they're surrounded by crap teams either. Like,
no, Leicester's situation in the league is it clearly being impacted by all the speculation around Brendan Rodgers, or are they being found out?
Well,
is it the European
15
games?
points from 11, like, as well. They've 4 wins, like, so they're probably not much better than that, are they? I mean, they're probably more of a mid-table team that have punched above their weight a bit in recent seasons. Vardy's getting older. Like, Leeds is a strange one for me. That I expected Leeds to be doing better than that.
It's all of a sudden a very, very competitive.
It's very
league.
competitive, and in the way it's structured financially, it kind of should be that way. In that, like, it's not really depending on what crowds you get. Like, the lower teams they get plenty of money for being in the Premier League, and that's the funny thing about this season. You don't really trust. Like, most teams, you don't trust them to definitely win week to week because it is competitive.
No,
and look at Liverpool, like.
Well, and actually look at Burnley being able to come from one down at Chelsea. That's very impressive. It's that you concede, and it's a shitty goal to concede, like a free header for Kai Havertz from 6 yards out. You're like, oh,
win the
come
game. Tuchel's performance after was interesting. He didn't seem that perturbed. He seemed fairly happy with life. Now they're still 3 points ahead, but. Like, the West Ham story is quite incredible. Like, 23 points from 11 games, beating Liverpool, scoring swashbuckling goals.
Yeah. Very impressive. Very, very impressive.
Moyes should obviously
good manager.
not have
very
been
good
let
manager.
go.
Right, so that's Villa in the Reds. Is it Gerrard time? I'm saying no. Give me somebody else.
Who would have been your favourite Villa manager from those you reeled off, actually?
Well, it's John Gregory, because like, he was aggressive and then ultimately signed really badly at the end and cost them the chance of winning the league and stopping Man United becoming the juggernaut they became. It's actually his fault.
I'd forgotten that.
If they hadn't signed, it was Bosco Balaban was the biggest waste of money, but even Juan Pablo Angel. So they went to River Plate and they watched Pablo Aimar, Juan Pablo Angel, and Riquelme, I think, in the same game.
Riquelme, what a
and
baller.
they picked Juan Pablo Angel. Like, if you pick either of the other two, and that's wrong because Riquelme played for Boca, so I've got that wrong. But they were down there in that general vicinity, shopping around, going, "Oh, we'll take this guy," and then he signs for like 9 million, which is a massive amount of money at the time, and scores a goal every other year.
The football, on a complete tangent, but the football agent stuff is very, very interesting, and it's becoming a big thing in Ireland now because there are so many young kids who are starring at underage League of Ireland level who are obviously not going to Britain, and there's a scrap for them. And it's made me wonder, like, what makes a good football agent? Like, is it what he can see, or is it how he can deal with people, or what is it like? And this isn't
how much money he can get for his client.
But it's not at this level. It's not quite like that. It's more spotting the players and treating them well. Like, because there isn't fortunes in it per se. Like, so it's not like your top dudes. But it's interesting. It's a very interesting world, and nearly everyone has an agent now. Even at League of Ireland level, you're represented by someone.
Yeah, well, they probably need one as well. It's 7.
Can you go to a game and tell, like, I'm here to watch A, but can you say, listen, like, this fullback is just, you got to sign him. Over the course of 90 minutes, I've seen enough, sign him.
You've got Y-Scout that's saying, here are the stats to back this up. And what are you looking for? So it fits into, if you can talk the language of the data analysts who are looking after the Sevilla youth team and say, you need a left back who will touch the ball 14 times and make 7 forward passes. This is the profile. This is the amount of running you can do. That's how that works.
I am worried about that though as well. Like, please don't let all football teams just be based on like their GPS data and all that. Like,
Might be a
like
lot of that,
are all
yeah.
the characters going to be gone out of the game?
That's the way, so the assumption that you can't perform well statistically and also be a character is a false duality.
No, but it's like you have to work so hard off the ball now. It's like where was your Matt Letizier's or your, the languid players who kind of...
Yeah, I mean...
Do you know,
where are the lazy ones?
Do we want everyone to just work really hard for the team, come off at 60 minutes and be happy and say, yes, I did for the team?
Could Matt Le Tissier have been like genuinely world class?
If he worked.
Dominated like one of the big European leagues at the highest level and won multiple European Cups. Yeah, he probably could have.
Probably could have.
Do you know, like he could have won a World Cup. But I mean, he's probably happy. Every Monday morning on OTB AM, we give you the chance to win a Gillette starter pack. All you got to do is enter. All you have to do to enter is get in touch with your suggestions. Who should be in the red, who should be in the amber, and who should be in the green. Red is bad, amber is okay. We're gonna have a little chat about that, and then green is obviously go go go. Wales are in the amber. Poor Wales. Poor Wales.
What happened here?
We have failed you on this show, Wales, because we didn't troll you before the New Zealand game, and you got your absolute asses handed to you by the All Blacks. That happens. It might well happen to us next weekend. I don't know. And I apologise on behalf of OTBAM for not taunting you enough so that we inspired you to greatness. But this weekend,
I think this
was the most Welsh thing that I've ever seen in my life. So you've got the Springboks, the world champions, the team who just sorted out the Lions pretty handily, and they're on their European tour, and it's a level 15 all, I think, is the score, and there's like 13 minutes left in the game. Wales are attacking. It's a beautiful, vibrant move. Ball comes to Liam Williams. He's going to run it in. He's going to saunter in, touch it down. The Millennium Stadium with no roof on it for whatever reason, and everybody getting wet. So, that's what happens in most realities. In whatever simulation we're in at the moment, some drunken Welsh fan clambers over, waving to the crowd, telling everybody what he's going to do, and everybody's watching him, wearing his poppy, obviously, because you have to, and he stops on the sideline, and then he gets in onto the field to play. Now that's the last one. You need to start. So there he is on the ground, right? So that's him in the middle there. In the middle of our shot, he's on the ground being attended to. And that's Liam Williams in the top left-hand corner. And that's 4 South Africans who've managed to make it to Liam Williams, because Liam Williams had to stop and check his run because some clown had got on the field of play and got in his way. You're like, what are you doing? There he is. There's where Liam Williams gets the ball. And now look how far away everybody is. Maybe the pass was a little bit behind him, and maybe our alternative reality is fake. But look how far away the 4 South Africans are. And then all of a sudden they're like right on him because he had to stop because he couldn't just run straight through to the line, even though they created the space.
What's your feeling towards the guy who went onto the pitch right now?
What are you doing?
See, the sad, so if you were a journalist and you said, you went into your editor on a Monday morning, if this even happens anymore, and the editor said, I want you to find out the life story of this man, it'd be interesting because he may be, it's hard to know if it would be interesting or not, because apparently there's this thing which I'm blissfully unaware of. Maybe he was just hammered.
There was a guy who made it into the anthems the previous week. Must have been at the Millennium Stadium. And then he made it into the anthems at the Aviva. You see this guy?
I didn't. You were talking to me. We've had that in racing a lot as well. I find that stuff just pathetic, to be honest.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so I don't even want to talk about it, because you just end up, this is like, they talked about me there, they talked about me there, and look how amazing I am, they're talking about me. So would it really be interesting to find out about a guy who gets so drunk at the game that he thinks he's going to be the lad for the next ages? I don't know. Is your editor sitting down going, I want to know the life story of this guy? Is your editor actually like a little bit out of touch going, no, that's just some tryhard who wants his 15 seconds of TikTok fame? There might be that. But why did he do it? And there are repercussions for somebody who does that for someone's family. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. And, it's like he's the guy who made an ass of himself going onto the pitch now. Fair enough, Wales didn't score a try or whatever, but it does matter in the sporting context. And he's, there's
an iconic image of him just being on the floor there while Wales have a try basically that they won't score because he was on the pitch
and
in jeans.
Look, everybody in this show knows how much we love South Africa, so if they both could have lost the weekend, we'd have been happy. As it turned out, Wales humiliated themselves unnecessarily, and they gave South Africa the victory. Fair play to everybody.
You mean their humiliation was their fan?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not Wales humiliating themselves.
Well, that's the whole country. No, I mean, Wales, the whole country's embarrassed.
What should the punishment be for somebody who does that?
I think you should actually be banned for life from going to any rugby matches, any sports matches again. It's like you can't be trusted to look after yourself until you make reparation. Whatever that is, you decide.
You're a bit back to society.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you should be put in prison or anything, but although at the same time, it's not. There's a safety element here. Like, we live in a very, very toxic world where people might get ideas about this and go, well,
It's interesting as well that we've had this debate about football and rugby about boozing at games, and there has been talk about like bringing in kind of being able to have a pint basically whilst watching a Premier League game. And I think even in football, people are like, "Yeah, I'm not sure about that."
Yeah.
It's an interesting
window of
dynamic.
90 minutes not drinking isn't the worst thing that's happened in people's lives.
No, or like you can do at the Aviva Stadium, you can have your beer at half time, but you can't re-enter the. I kind of think that's probably the best way to go. You can't trust 50,000 people in a raucous atmosphere or otherwise to all behave themselves if they're boozed up, basically. But obviously in rugby, normally it's fine because they're very upstanding people.
We've 2 more greens to come. The Ireland rugby team and the Ireland football team. So from the Ireland
Green shoots.
Well, exactly. From the Ireland football team's perspective, and we'll get into this a little bit later on in the week in more detail, but the fact that Doherty comes off the bench at least, and one report I read said he came on at left wing back, which is probably where he's going to play for Ireland. The fact that he was up against Seamus Coleman. Seamus Coleman played the full 90 minutes. He's fit. A lot of our players seem to have got a bit of fitness and a bit of form. Some don't. That's the way it goes. But there's nobody at the moment who you would say, right, it's a disaster for us that we don't have this player. Even Alan Brown is back, missed the game at the weekend, but is in the squad this morning, we're being told. Now, sometimes that happens. He shows up and they send him home. So we'll see. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he will be fit. But it looks like he's got his full deck to deal with for these 2 games. The Portugal game is obviously a massive game for the fans, but the biggest game from Kenny's perspective is going to be winning in Luxembourg.
Yeah, yes and no. Like, the Portugal game is the game that everyone... No, I don't think anyone is thinking of Luxembourg at the moment. So the Portugal game, we should have gotten something in Faro. And I still think that if we actually played a bit more... If Stephen Kenny were a little bit braver in the second half, I think we could have actually put them to the sword. Maybe brought on like an offensive player rather than James McLean, because they were absolute ramshackle at the back. And we were inviting pressure, I think, by... This is just my thoughts now. And we did create chances, but I think in the last 20 minutes, half an hour, they were still there for the take. And McLean did poorly when he came on as well defensively. But now McLean comes into the argument because he's actually played very well the last couple of games. Say 3
well
games.
For Wigan, he's scoring goals.
Yeah, he's flying.
He was out of form at club level at that stage.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make the most sense. Mind you, Connolly, I think, was pushed in the back. It probably was a penalty.
Yeah, it's a bit of the boys by the wolf with Connolly. But
if Ronaldo scores the penalty, which you would expect him to do against Bazunu, is that a 5-0?
I spoke about this at the time. That was like, I don't know, it was one of the most defining moments of the Irish football story, because Bazunu screws up effectively by hitting the ball a bit too short, and he's interestingly, Ireland have sort of abandoned that style of football since, which I don't disagree with, to be honest. I think
I don't think we've abandoned it. I think we
do it a lot less. Like
that's different from abandoning it.
There's no way he's going to try that pass on Thursday. No way. None whatsoever. They tried against Serbia.
We do when it's suitable. We still play out from the back from time to time, but it's not just a blind.
Show me against even Qatar and Azerbaijan anything that resembled remotely that, or the one where was it Duffy gave the ball away in the box against Serbia and Lansdowne Road when they probably.
So we just got better at it. That's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you largely.
I think we're not really doing the really high risk stuff at the moment, but the point is Bazunu did that, but he's like, whatever. I'm just going to get up and save a penalty from Ronaldo here, and I thought that was like, if Ronaldo had scored, Ireland could have been absolutely battered.
Yeah.
And on Thursday, let's be honest, if Portugal turned it on, we still have. Remember when we played Serbia at home? We were absolutely pummeled for 80 minutes, 70 minutes, whatever. We'd hardly any of the ball. We fashioned a goal and we rallied, but the bottom line is we were given a kick in for that. So what's the progress we've made since then? Because it's hard to tell from games against Qatar and Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
So that'll be very, very interesting. How we shape up, and as people have said, the onus is on you more at home, whether you like it or not.
I think the fact that Duffy, Egan, Bamadeli, Coleman and Doherty are playing a little bit of football, the combined number of minutes of those back five will be much higher than it would have been at any point in recently, like in the last game.
Totally.
So I think that helps.
And Bazunu. So our back six.
I think, yeah, and Bazunu, and I think we know who our midfield is first choice. It's if Alan Brown is back and fit and ready to go, and I think he's got full capacity to play the two games, then he'll probably play. And it's just like we know the identity of the team more or less. It's not a complete mystery to us, and that's I think
they'll go in there in great shape mentally. I think that's the point as well. But the onus on our midfielders and Robinson, it'll be tough. While saying at the same time, Portugal are definitely vulnerable defensively, and I do wonder about their dressing room at times as well, because Serbia have been the best team in the group. Even though the sum of their parts would suggest probably Portugal should be. Portugal were poor against us for most of the game.
Yeah, I'd say there'll be a little bit of doubt in their minds. And
absolutely.
I'm not ruling out a potential
I can definitely see us getting a result. Definitely. I genuinely can.
That would be great. And the last one in green is obviously the rugby team.
Tell me about this, Ger. So I'm expecting Japan coming over. I'm expecting something of a game here. And I look at this, how do Ireland win 65?
Well, it's Japan's fourth game since the World Cup because of COVID. So you have to definitely take into consideration that. But the upward trend of the Ireland team since the end of the Six Nations is clear. The other thing that happened, which I think is the most significant thing that happened, is that our first choice players, our best first choice players, were all fit at the same time for the first time really in the Andy Farrell era. So Tyke Furlong is world class. He's playing. James Ryan is back fit and playing well and in form. Caelan Doris is back after a very interrupted start to his Ireland career, and Johnny Sexton is fit and in form. And that's like four players who you would have an argument about them getting in whatever international team they played for. Certainly, maybe Sexton at his age probably doesn't make the All Blacks team, but the rest of them are like, these players are good enough to play for anybody in the world. It's world class. And when they're fit and fully there, there's a tone set by their presence. Andrew Porter also played brilliantly, and he's fully fit. It's just like, for the first time, he's got a full deck, and it looks like the attacking influence of Mike Catt is beginning to show some.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like these things, we're trying to change the style. It's like, oh, you can just flick a switch and the players will all be able to do it. You can't. But it turns out we can offload when you ask your players to offload, and you drill them and drill them and drill them and drill them.
Or were Japan just terrible?
Japan were also just terrible.
So, like, what sort of prep is this for the All Blacks?
Ireland are -10.
Yeah, I think it was actually. I think it was more the last time I heard. So maybe it's coming a little bit.
Well,
but is that a fair enough?
Yeah, that's like, we're always 10 points against the All Blacks, and sometimes it's 16. I think it was 16 in Chicago. Pretty sure it was. And then it would have been 12 after we beat them there. We beat them by 20 points, and the spread came in by about 4 points for the next week. And I think maybe they didn't cover it, but they certainly beat us.
What a weekend for our sport.
Yeah, I think you got to be happy with that. But we'll get into this a bit more later on. No one's getting carried away by winning the first of a November series. All of a sudden, the game against the All Blacks looks pretty tasty. 160 quid a ticket.
As in,
that's what it is.
But you can still get a ticket.
No, it was 160 for the premium, 120 for the plebs.
So which was harder to get a ticket for, Portugal or the All Blacks?
That's a good question. I'd say you could get All Blacks tickets. They were released twice.
Okay.
On general sale.
That's interesting. So you had two shots at it anyway.
Yeah. I think with Portugal, they went straight away, right?
They were gone I think they were gone in about 15 minutes now. I'm speculating, but yeah, they went really quickly.
All right, 7 minutes past 8 this morning. OTB AM brought to you by Gillette, proud sponsors of Movember. Gentlemen, let's mow. That's this week's performance rankings.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.